When my son asked me to hand over my bakery to him, I did not know it would be the beginning of a new life. When I received the call from my grandson, Sam, asking me to attend his graduation ceremony, I felt my heart beat faster in my fifth-floor office. 9 years. 9 long years had passed since my own children slammed the door in my face, telling me I was no longer welcome in their lives. I stood in silence, looking out the window that overlooked the entire city. From up there, I could see 3 of my bakeries. Their signs: the Golden Crust, Robert Harrison, shining under the afternoon sun. No one in my family knew they existed. No one except Sam. Grandpa, are you still there? His voice brought me back to the present. Sam had been the only one who never abandoned me. He was the only one who kept calling me, writing to me, visiting me in secret during all these years, while his parents treated me like a useless, old-fashioned old man. He saw who I truly was. I am here, kiddo, I answered, feeling a lump in my throat. But you know that your parents... I could not finish the sentence. The wounds from 9 years ago were still there. They were healed, but still sensitive to the touch. They do not know anything. Sam interrupted me. It is my personal invitation. I have the right to invite whoever I want. Besides, Mom and Dad have no idea who you are now. They think you are still the same man they threw out on the street. I closed my eyes and remembered that day. Mike yelling that I was a burden, that my ideas were outdated, that I did not understand the modern world. Sarah nodding from the couch, a coward as always, unable to defend her own father. It would be better if you went to a nursing home. Dad, you will be better off there, my own daughter had told me, as if I were a broken object that was no longer useful. I got up from my Italian leather chair and walked toward the large window. New York City stretched beneath my feet like a chessboard where I had learned to move the right pieces. Every building, every street, every light that began to turn on at dusk reminded me of the path I had walked alone. Sam, years have passed. Maybe it is better to leave things as they are, I murmured. Even though a part of me was dying to see him receive that degree I had funded in secret. Grandpa, you paid for my tuition. You sent me money every month when they thought it was a scholarship. You listened to me cry on the phone when I felt lonely. You deserve to be in the front row to see me graduate from medical school. His voice broke slightly. Please, I need you to be there. I need you to see what we have achieved together. I looked at my desk where I kept a picture of Sam in his white coat from the hospital where he was doing his internship. Right next to it, there was a local newspaper where my picture appeared in the business section. Robert Harrison, the entrepreneur who revolutionized artisanal baking in the region. If my children only knew that the man they considered washed up now had a fortune of several $1,000,000, that he employed over 50 people, that he had built an empire out of nothing after they threw him out on the street. I touched the picture frame. Sam had the exact same eyes I had at his age. That same determination that my own children never knew how to appreciate. He had inherited my strength, my vision, and my ability to build something huge from scratch. Where will the ceremony be? I asked. I could hear his sigh of relief. At the college auditorium this Saturday, at 5 in the afternoon. Everyone will be there. The whole family. He paused, including Mom and Dad. I felt a knot in my stomach. 9 years without seeing them. 9 years wondering if they ever thought about me. If they would ever regret treating me like garbage. 9 years building a new life. A new identity. And a level of success they could never have imagined. All right, I finally said, I will be there. Sam could not believe it. Really, are you sure? Yes. But Sam, I want you to know something. I am not the same man they knew 9 years ago. I have changed. I have grown. I have built something they cannot even imagine. I know. Grandpa, I always knew. That is why I need you to come, so they can see who you truly are. After hanging up, I kept gazing at the city, stretching beneath my feet. The phone rested in my hand like a familiar weight. Tomorrow I would call my assistant to get everything ready. The perfect suit, the appropriate car, the presents a man like me deserved. Mike and Sarah were about to discover that they had severely underestimated their father. I smiled for the first time in months. After 9 years, it was time for them to know the truth. I could not sleep that night. I stayed on the terrace of my apartment, wrapped in a cashmere blanket, remembering how I had gotten here. The city was shining below me, but my mind traveled years back to that little house where I thought I would die of sorrow. Sarah had just turned 35 when she told me she no longer needed me. Mike, 2 years younger, had always lived in her shadow. I remember that day I was wearing my navy blue suit. It was the same one I used to wear for important meetings at the job I had just quit to take care of Sam when he was a baby. Dad, frankly, you do not understand anything about the modern world. Sarah had told me while clearing the table after lunch, your advice is useless. Your ideas are outdated. We need space to grow as a family. I had abandoned my career as a business manager to help them with Sam. I had sold my small apartment to give them the down payment for their house. I had spent my life savings on Mike's college tuition, Sarah's whims, everything they had asked for over the years. But I helped you with everything, I had said that morning, with a trembling voice. I left my job for you. I sold everything I had so you could have this house. Mike had sighed from the couch without even looking at me. Dad, that was your decision. He would not even look my way. We never asked you to do all that. It was a lie. A painful lie. I remembered perfectly well when Sarah came crying because they could not pay their mortgage. I remembered Mike begging me to help him with his college expenses because he had failed his classes and lost his scholarship. I remembered every tear, every plea, every time they told me I was the best father in the world. Besides, Sarah had continued, you are already 73 years old. You should think about resting, not meddling in our lives. 73 years old. As if I were an invalid. As if my mind had stopped working the day I turned 70. As if the years of experience, wisdom, and sacrifice meant nothing. But what about Sam? I had murmured, thinking about my 13-year-old grandson who was at school. He needs me. I watch him every afternoon. We already found a babysitter, Mike had said, without taking his eyes off his phone. Someone younger, more up-to-date. Someone who understands technology and can help him with his homework. More up-to-date. Those words hurt me more than any scream. Me, a man who had managed the finances of a company for 20 years, a man who had raised 2 children alone after their mother abandoned us, a man who had learned how to use computers, the internet, and smartphones just to keep in touch with them. Dad, do not take it the wrong way. Sarah had walked over and placed her hand on my shoulder with that fake smile she used whenever she wanted something. It is just that we need our space. You need yours too. A place where you can really enjoy yourself. What I truly enjoyed was watching them grow. Taking care of Sam, feeling useful, having a family that loved me. But apparently, that was no longer enough. So, what do you want me to do? I had asked, even though I already knew the answer. Well, Mike had finally sat up straight. We have looked at a few nursing homes. Very nice places with activities. People your age, you could be happy there. Nursing homes. They wanted to get rid of me. They wanted to send me somewhere I would not bother them. Somewhere, they could pretend they were still the perfect children everyone thought they were. And what if I do not want to go to a nursing home? I had asked, feeling anger begin to replace the sadness. Dad, do not be difficult. Sarah had Sihil. Look, we can help with the expenses for the first few months. But after that, you will have to manage with your retirement check. My retirement check, $300 a month that would not even cover a decent room. They knew that. They knew I had spent everything on them. They knew I had no savings. That my only safety net was them. But I have nowhere to go, I had murmured. And that was the first time in my life I felt truly old, truly useless, truly finished. Well, Mike had shrugged. You have to find something. We cannot support you forever. They could not support me. After I had supported them their entire lives. After I had sacrificed my future for theirs. After I had believed that a father's love was something to be valued, respected, and returned. That night, 9 years ago, I walked out of their house with a small suitcase and a broken heart. I did not know that this break would be the best gift they had ever given me. Now, looking at the city lights from my terrace, I smiled. Tomorrow they would see what I had done with that retirement check they were so worried about. The day I left their house, I cried for 3 straight hours on a park bench. I had a few dollars in my pocket and a suitcase with 4 old suits. People walked past me and looked away, as if old age were contagious, as if my pain were something shameful they preferred not to see. It was right there, sitting on that splintered wooden bench, that I made the decision that would change my life forever. Robert, I told myself out loud, not caring if people thought I was crazy, you either die right here out of sorrow, or you show them what you are made of. I remembered something I had learned during my years of work. There is always money for those who know where to look for it. There are always opportunities for those who keep their eyes open. My children thought that just because I was older, I was no longer useful. But I knew something they ignored. Experience does not retire. The next day, with my last few dollars, I bought a newspaper and looked for a job. Not just any job. I looked for something where my experience was worth more than my age. I found a small ad in the classifieds. Experienced manager wanted for a small family bakery. Urgent. The bakery was a complete disaster. It had 1 oven, and half of it was out of service. Its owners, Mr. Charles Robinson and his wife, Mrs. Helen Robinson, both older than me, were desperate to sell. Mr. Charles was 80 years old, and his wife had lost her sight to diabetes. They could no longer manage the business. Sir, Mr. Charles told me when he saw me arrive, we need someone who understands numbers, someone who knows management, but we cannot offer a large salary. How much for the bakery? I asked him straight away. He stayed silent for a moment. Well, we have appraised it at $50,000, but we are willing to negotiate. Why do you ask? Because I have a better proposal, I said, feeling the adrenaline rushing through my veins. I will manage the bakery. I will put it in order, and in exchange, I keep 30% of the profits. When the bakery does well, you give me the option to buy the whole place. Mr. Charles looked at me as if I had lost my mind. Sir, you do not understand. This bakery is in the red. There are no profits to share. Let me work for 3 months. I insisted. If I cannot make this bakery profitable, I will walk away without asking for a dime. But if I succeed, we have a deal. That night I slept in the back room of the bakery, on a cot that smelled like dampness, listening to the noise of broken pipes. My children thought I was finished. They thought I was a burden. that I did not understand the modern world. I was going to show them just how wrong they were. The first month was the hardest of my life. I worked from 5 in the morning until 11 at night. I cleaned. I repaired whatever I could. I talked to suppliers. And I designed a brand new ordering system. I learned how to use the internet, not just to browse, but to create a website, to manage social media, and to understand the bakery market. Modern world, I would tell myself, as I learned how to use computer programs that my own children did not even know existed. Let us see who is outdated. By the second month, the first customers started to arrive. I had discovered that our location was perfect for the neighborhood residents who wanted something authentic, something familiar, far away from the big, impersonal chain stores. I hired 2 young women from the area to help me with the cleaning, and I taught them everything I knew about customer service. Mr. Robert, one of them told me, you should have children to take care of you. I do not understand why you work so hard here. My children are busy with their own lives, I replied, swallowing the bitter truth. Besides, a man is not defined by what others do for him, but by what he does for himself. By the 3rd month, the bakery was completely packed. We went from having 3 customers a day to over 100. Our online reviews were excellent. Mr. Charles could not believe the numbers. Mr. M. Robert, he told me with shining eyes, you have worked a miracle. This bakery had not seen this many customers in 20 years. This is just the beginning, I replied. Now we have to expand. That was when I proposed my real plan. With the bakery's profits, we could buy the empty lot next door that was for sale. We could increase our space, add a pastry shop, and create a complete experience for our customers. But that requires a major investment. Mr. Charles said, we would need a bank loan. Let me talk to the bank, I said. I have some contacts from my working years. I had no contacts, but I had something better. I had numbers that spoke for themselves. I had a solid business plan. I had the experience of managing large budgets for 20 years. The bank director received me with a condescending look. Sir, at your age, such a large loan is very risky. We would need substantial guarantees. Look at these numbers, I said, placing the 3-month reports on his desk. Look at the projections. Look at the customer reviews. This business is not a risk. It is an opportunity. I got the loan. $500,000 that my children would never have believed I could get. Money they would never have trusted in my hands. 6 months later, we had a fully functioning bakery and pastry shop running at full speed. A year later, we bought a 3rd location. 2 years later, we had our first branch in another part of the city. During all that time, Sam would call me in secret. Grandpa, how are you? Mom says you live in a nursing home. I am fine. In kiddo. I would tell him, without revealing the whole truth. I am learning new things, meeting new people. I was doing fine. I never lied to him. But I also did not tell him that his old-fashioned grandfather was building an empire. 3 years after being thrown out on the street, I already had 5 bakeries operating in 3 different boroughs of New York City. The Golden Crust, Robert Harrison, had become synonymous with quality and family warmth throughout the entire region. But the money and the success were not what made me most proud. It was the transformation I had experienced internally. Every morning I woke up at 6. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I dressed in elegant suits that I bought with my own money. I drank my coffee in porcelain cups that I had personally chosen for each of my bakeries. I reviewed sales reports. I talked with my managers. I made decisions that affected dozens of employees. Good morning, Mr. Robert Arthur, my personal assistant, greeted me every morning when I arrived at the main office. You have a meeting with the investors at 10, lunch with the city councilman at noon, and a video conference with the Boston team at 3. Boston, my sixth bakery, the most ambitious one yet. A restored historic building downtown that would become the crown jewel of my network. When I signed the purchase contract, I remembered Mike's words. Dad, at your age, you should think about resting. Resting. While they were still living off temp jobs, and Sarah struggled to keep her office position, I was expanding my company regionally, while they argued over paying their bills. I had donated $5,000 to a local orphanage the month before. Mr. Robert, the orphanage director, had told me, with tears in her eyes, this donation will allow us to completely renovate the educational area. The children will have access to new computers, updated books, materials we never could have afforded. Children are the future, I had replied, thinking of Sam. Investing in them is always the best decision. But there was more than money to my transformation. It was confidence. It was the feeling that every day I was building something bigger than myself. It was the satisfaction of seeing my employees progress professionally, seeing how the families who worked with me improved their lives thanks to the well-paying jobs I provided. Mr. Robert, Mary, the young woman I hired at my first bakery and who was now a regional manager, had told me, "You changed my life. Thanks to this job, I was able to study hospitality management at night. Now I have my own apartment. I can help my family. I have a future." "You changed your own life," I had replied. "I only gave you the opportunity. The hard work was yours. But at night, when I was alone in my apartment, I sometimes thought of them. Mike, Sarah, and most of all, Sam. My grandson was already 19 years old, and according to our secret conversations, he was studying hard to get into medical school. "Grandpa, I dream of being a doctor," he had told me on our last call. "But Mom says it is too expensive, that maybe I should study something more practical. What does your heart tell you?" "Kiddo," I had asked him, "my heart says medicine. I want to help people. I want to do something important with my life. Then study medicine." I had said firmly, "The money for tuition always shows up when there is a true calling." I had not told him that I had already set aside $500,000 for his education. I had not told him that I had contacted the best medical schools in the country. I had not told him that his future was secured, no matter what his parents might say, because Sam was different. Sam saw me just as I was, a smart, capable man, full of dreams and projects, not like some useless old man who needed to be thrown away. "Grandpa," he had asked me one day, "why do Mom and Dad never talk about you?" When I ask, they change the subject. "Sometimes families get complicated." "Kiddo," I had replied, "but you and I know who we are. That is what counts." One afternoon, while reviewing the expansion plans for the Boston bakery, I received an unexpected call. It was a number I did not recognize, but when I answered, I heard a familiar voice. "Mr. Robert Harrison, this is Bernard Lawson from First National Bank. We have a very interesting business proposal for you." Bernard Lawson was one of the vice presidents of the most important bank in the region. We had crossed paths at some business meetings, but we had never spoken directly. "The bank is interested in financing your regional expansion," he continued. "We have been following the growth of the Golden Crust, and we believe it has the potential to become a major network. We are talking about a line of credit of $25 million. $25 million. My children had believed that a $300 retirement check was all I could handle. Now a bank was offering me $25 million to develop my company. I am interested. I replied with the calmness I had learned over these years of doing business. Let us schedule a meeting to discuss the terms. After hanging up, I stood staring out my office window. Down on the street, I saw an elderly person carrying grocery bags, walking slowly, ignored by everyone walking past. 4 years ago, that could have been me. Invisible, tossed aside, considered a burden by my own children. Now I was a respected businessman, a responsible employer, a prosperous investor. I had built something that was going to last, something of value, something that proved age was not a limitation, but an advantage. And most importantly, I had learned to value myself without needing anyone else's approval. 5 years after being thrown out by my kids, the golden crust was a reality that exceeded my most ambitious dreams. I had 12 bakeries in operation, over 80 employees, and I had just been named Entrepreneur of the Year by the Regional Chamber of Commerce. But that recognition came with something I had not foreseen. It was the first time my children heard about my real existence. Robert Harrison, Sarah, had asked Sam over the phone, unaware that my grandson had her on speaker and that I could hear every word from my office. It cannot be the same Robert Harrison who was in the newspaper as a successful entrepreneur. I do not know. Mom, Sam had answered with a natural tone that filled me with pride. There are a lot of people with that name, but it says he is 78 years old. And the last name is Harrison. Do you think it could be your grandfather? My grandson stayed silent for a few seconds. I could imagine his face, trying to decide what to say. We had agreed to keep our contact a secret, but we had never discussed what we would do if his parents started asking direct questions. Ma'am, Grandpa is in a nursing home. Sam had finally said, "How could he be a businessman?" Sarah went quiet. But I could feel her doubts through the phone. In the days that followed, Sam told me that his mother had been strangely nervous, asking questions about where exactly I lived, what I was doing. If anyone had heard from me, I think she suspects something. Grandpa, Sam told me on a late-night call, Mom is asking a lot of questions about you. She even told Dad he should visit you. Visit me. I could not help but laugh. After 5 years of acting as if I were dead, now they wanted to visit me. It is because you were in the business magazine again. This time with your picture at the grand opening of the Boston bakery. Mom saw it at the dentist's office and almost fainted when she saw the photo. I remembered that photo shoot perfectly well. I had hired a professional photographer for the new bakery's advertising campaign. In the picture, I looked elegant in a beige suit, cutting the ribbon in front of a beautiful historic building, surrounded by local officials and important business owners. My silver hair perfectly combed, my posture straight, my smile confident. Nothing like the broken man who had walked out of their house 5 years ago. Sam, I said carefully, what do you want me to do? If they decide to look for me, I do not know. Grandpa, a part of me wants them to know the truth, to know how wrong they were. But another part of me is afraid that they only want to get close now that you have money. Sam was right to be worried. 2 weeks after that conversation, I received Mike's first call in 5 years. Dad, his voice sounded uncertain, as if he were not entirely convinced it was me. It is Mike. I stayed completely quiet for several seconds, feeling my heart race. I was in my office, reviewing the contracts for the grand opening of Bakery Number 13. When my personal phone rang, I never expected to hear that voice. Mike. I kept my tone neutral. How did you get this number? Sam gave it to us. Dad, we need to talk. We have heard some things. Things about you that we do not understand. What kind of things? I asked, even though I knew perfectly well what he meant. Dad, is it true that you own bakeries? That you are a businessman? His voice sounded completely shocked, as if he were asking me if I had flown to the moon. Mike, why are you interested in knowing that now? Why? Because we do not understand how it is possible. When you left the house, you had nothing but your retirement check. You had no money. You had no job. You had nothing. I had nothing. Those words hurt more than I wanted to admit. To them, I had nothing, because they never valued my experience, my intelligence, my work ethic, or my determination. None of that counted. Mike, I said with the calmness I had learned during years of tough negotiations. Why are you calling me? We actually want to see you. Dad, we want to talk to you. We want to understand what happened. What happened? The anger I had buried for 5 years began to rise like lava. Do you really want me to tell you what happened, Dad? Please. We know things did not end well between us. But you are our father. We are a family. A family. That word they had trampled on when they threw me out of their lives. That word they had ignored when they treated me like garbage. That word they now wanted to use as an excuse to get close to my success. Mike, it has been 5 years. 5 years where you did not care about me. 5 years where you did not even ask if I was dead or alive. And now, all of a sudden, I am family. Dad, it is not like that. We always thought about you. It is just that. Well, you said you wanted your space? I did not say anything. I interrupted him firmly. You told me you did not need me anymore. You told me I was a burden. You told me my ideas were outdated. Do you remember? Mike went completely silent. I could hear his nervous breathing through the phone. Dad, maybe we were wrong. Maybe we said things we should not have said. But now we want to fix things. Fix things. I got up from my desk and walked toward the large window overlooking the city. Mike, do you know what I did the first day after you kicked me out? No. Dad, I cried for 3 hours on a park bench. I cried because I thought I had failed as a father. I cried because I thought I truly was what you guys said. A useless, old-fashioned old man. I cried because, for the first time in my life, I felt completely alone. Dad, please. But then, I continued, feeling the strength return to my voice. I got up from that bench and decided to prove to myself that I was worth something. Not for you. For myself. And you did it, Mike said with a small voice. The bakeries. The success. Dad, we are proud of you. Proud now. They were proud when I had money. When I was in magazines. When others respected me. Not when I was working 18 hours a day to take care of them. Not when I had sacrificed my future for theirs. Not when I had given them everything without asking for anything in return. Mike, I said, with a coldness I had never used with my children. Would you have called me if you had not seen my picture in that magazine? A long silence. A very long silence. Dad, that is not fair. Answer the question. Mike, would you have called me silence? That tells me everything I need to know. I finally said, if you want to talk to me, you can come here. And you will have to explain to me why I am suddenly worth your time now. I hung up before he could answer. My hands were shaking, but not out of fear. It was pure adrenaline. For the first time in my life, I had set clear boundaries with my children. For the first time in my life, the power was on my side. After that call with Mike, 3 months passed with no news. 3 months during which I continued to develop my empire, while they, according to what Sam told me, lived in a mix of curiosity and financial despair. My grandson had started giving me more details about his parents' real situation, and the irony was both painful and satisfying at the same time. Grandpa, Dad lost his job last month. Sam had told me in a late-night conversation. He says the company was downsizing, and the first ones to go were the employees over 45. Mike was 43 years old, 2 years younger than I was when he and Sarah decided I was too old to be useful. Life has strange ways of teaching lessons. And your mom is desperate. They have knocked on several doors asking for money. They even went to Mom's parents. But they do not have much either. Uncle John lent them some, but it was not enough to catch up on the mortgage. The mortgage, the very same house for which I had sold my apartment to give them the full down payment. The house where they told me I was no longer welcome, and now they were about to lose it because they could not pay for it. Sam, do they know that you and I talk? Do they suspect something Mom has asked me a few times if I know how to contact you? I told her no, but I do not think she fully believes me. Besides, they ask weird questions about you. What kind of questions? They ask how many bakeries you have, how much money you might have, if I think you would give them a job. Dad even asked if I thought you would lend him money to start a business. A business. Mike, who had never been able to hold a job for more than 2 years, now wanted me to fund a company for him. The same Mike who had told me my ideas were outdated and that I did not understand the modern world. And what did you tell them? I told them the truth. That, I have no idea what you think of them after so many years of not talking. Sam was smart. At 22 years old, he had more emotional maturity than both his parents combined. He was already in his second year of medical school, secretly funded by me, and his grades were excellent. His professors adored him. He had a research grant and had started volunteering at the university hospital. Grandpa, I have to tell you something. He told me that night with a serious voice. Mom and Dad are planning to come see you. Come see me where, when? They found the address to your main office. Dad said they will go without giving you any notice. That they will surprise you so you cannot avoid them. I stayed silent, digesting this information. After 5 years of silence, after treating me like garbage, they were going to show up at my office uninvited. Their audacity was astonishing. When tomorrow afternoon, I heard Mom tell Dad it was better to go while you were working, so you would be forced to see them. I did not sleep that night, not out of nervousness, but out of strategy. If Mike and Sarah wanted to play, we were going to play, but we were going to play by my rules, on my territory, and under my conditions. At 6 a.m, I called Arthur, my assistant. Arthur, I need you to cancel all my appointments for tomorrow afternoon. And I need you to set up something special. What kind of setup? Mr. Robert, I want you to contact the managers of all our bakeries. I need a video conference with all of them tomorrow at 4 in the main boardroom. I also want you to invite Mr. Lawson from the bank, Dr. Martin from the hospital we donated medical equipment to last month, and the city councilman if he is available. A special occasion. Imbi. I am going to receive unexpected visitors, and I want them to clearly understand who they are dealing with. The next day went by normally until 4 in the afternoon. I was in my office, dressed in my most elegant suit, a navy blue one I had bought the month before, when Arthur buzzed me on the intercom. Mr. Robert, there are 2 people at reception who claim to be your family. They do not have an appointment, but they insist it is urgent. Have them wait in the small waiting room. I said, I will see them in 15 minutes. Exactly 15 minutes. Not because I was busy, but because I wanted them to understand that my time had value. I was no longer the man who dropped everything to attend to their needs. When I finally went down to the waiting room, I saw them before they saw me. Mike was nervous, looking all around with wide eyes. visibly impressed by the facilities. Sarah tried to keep her composure, but I could see how her eyes scanned every detail. The Italian leather furniture, the original artwork on the walls, the panoramic view of the city. Mike, Sarah. My voice came out colder than I had planned. They turned around at the same time. Mike looked older, more tired. He had gray hair I did not remember, and new wrinkles around his eyes. Sarah had gained weight, and her clothes, although trying to look elegant, were clearly from a cheap department store. Dad Mike stood up quickly. You look incredible. Thank you, I replied without smiling. To what do I owe this unexpected visit, Dad? We wanted to talk to you. Sarah stepped closer with that fake smile I knew so well. It has been so long since we last saw each other. We have missed you so much. Really, my tone remained entirely neutral. Did you miss me during the 5 years you did not bother to call? Or just since you saw my picture in the magazine? They looked at each other, clearly uncomfortable. Dad, we know things did not end well between us. Mike started, but we have reflected a lot and realized we made mistakes. Mistakes. I stared right at them. They called telling me I was a burden, that my ideas were outdated, that I should go to a nursing home. A mistake. Dad, we were going through a very tough time. Sarah said. Maybe we said things we did not mean. Ah, I see. So, when you told me you did not need me anymore, that you had to move on with your lives without me, those were also things you did not mean. Just then, my phone rang. It was Arthur. Mr. Robert, the video conference is ready. All 12 managers are connected. Mr. Lawson just arrived, and we have the city councilman on the line from his office. Perfect. Arthur, I will be there in 5 minutes. I hung up and turned to Mike and Sarah, who had heard the whole conversation. Excuse me, but I have an important meeting with my regional managers and some local officials. We are discussing the grand opening of 3 new bakeries and a significant donation for the new children's hospital. Sarah's eyes widened like dinner plates. 3 new bakeries, yes. 1 in Chicago, 1 in Seattle, and the 3rd in Austin. The total investment is approximately $40 million. Mike's jaw dropped. $40 million. More money than they had ever seen in their entire lives. But we can continue our conversation later. If you want, you can wait. The meeting will take about 2 hours. 2 hours. Sarah looked desperate. Dad, actually, we came to talk to you about something urgent. How urgent? We are going through some financial difficulties, Mike finally admitted, and we thought maybe you could help us. There it was. The truth finally came out. They had not come out of love. They had not come out of regret. They had not come because they missed me. They had come for money. I see, I said, with a smile that never reached my eyes. And what kind of help do you need exactly? They looked at each other again. Sarah took the lead. The truth is, we are about to lose the house. Mike lost his job, and we are way behind on payments. We just need about $30,000 to catch up, and maybe a little extra, so Mike can start a small business. $30,000. To me, that was less than what I spent decorating 1 bakery. For them, it was the difference between having a roof over their heads and being on the street. Let me see if I understood this correctly, I said slowly. You two, who told me 5 years ago that you did not need me anymore, who threw me out of your lives because I was a burden, now come begging me for money because you are in a tight spot. Dad, we are family, Sarah pleaded. Families help each other. You are right, I replied. Families help each other. But where was my family when I needed help? Where was my family when I was left without a house, without money, without anything? But you came out ahead, Mike protested. Look at you now. You have all of this. Exactly. I have all of this because I built it alone, without your help, without your support. And in spite of you, at that moment, Arthur appeared at the door. Mr. Robert, I am sorry to interrupt, but they are waiting for you in the boardroom. Thank you. Arthur, I turned back to Mike and Sarah. As I told you, I have an important meeting. If you want to talk, you will have to wait, or you can come back when you have an appointment. Dad, please. Sarah stepped closer. It is just $30,000. To you, it is nothing. I stared at them for several seconds. You are right. Sarah, to me, $30,000 is nothing. But do you know what is something to me? Respect, dignity, the acknowledgement that I am more than just a bank you can run to when you are desperate. We respect you, Dad, Mike said. We have always respected you. Really, I laughed. But there was no humor in it. Did you respect me when you told me I was outdated? Did you respect me when you sent me to look for a nursing home? Did you respect me when you closed the door and decided I was no longer part of your lives? They could not answer. I am going to my meeting, I announced. When I finish, we can continue this conversation. But I want you to understand something. Money does not erase the past. And if you want me to ever consider you my family again, you will have to prove to me that you truly understand the damage you caused. I walked out of the room, leaving them with those words floating in the air. For the first time in my life, I was the one setting the rules of the game, and the feeling was incredibly satisfying. When I returned from my meeting 2 hours later, Mike and Sarah were still in the waiting room. I found them whispering, clearly nervous, examining every single detail of the facilities as if they were oppressing everything they saw. When they saw me walk in, they stood up immediately. How was the meeting? Sarah asked with a forced smile, trying to look relaxed. Very well, I replied dryly. We confirmed the opening of the 3 new bakeries, and we approved a $2 million donation for the children's hospital. I saw Mike swallow hard when he heard the amount. $2 million as a donation. Money I was giving away to help sick children, while they came to beg me for $30,000 like it was a favor between friends. Dad, Mike stepped closer. We thought about things while we were waiting. We want you to know that we truly regret the way things ended between us. Regret? I looked at both of them. What exactly do you regret? Everything, Sarah said. Telling you to leave. Not valuing everything you did for us. Mistreating you. Mistreating you. My voice rose slightly. Sarah, you did not just mistreat me. You destroyed me. You made me feel like garbage. As if 50 years of being your father meant absolutely nothing. We exaggerated, Mike admitted. We were stressed. We had financial pressures. And maybe we took our frustrations out on you. Took your frustrations out. I sat down on one of the leather armchairs, forcing them to remain standing. Mike, do you remember what you told me the last day I was in your house? Mike looked away. Dad, that was a long time ago. Let me refresh your memory. I interrupted him. You told me I was a burden, that my advice was useless, that you needed space to grow as a family, and that I would be better off in a nursing home. And you, Sarah, I turned to my daughter. You told me my ideas were outdated. You said I did not understand the modern world. You said it was better if I walked away because I no longer fit into your lives. Sarah looked deeply uncomfortable, wringing her hands. Maybe we used very harsh words. Maybe I did, I said. standing up from the armchair. Sarah, you threw me out like an employee you no longer needed, as if the 50 years I dedicated to raising you, to sacrificing myself for you, to giving you everything I had, meant absolutely nothing. But now we understand that we made a mistake. Mike insisted. That is why we are here. We want to repair our relationship. Repair our relationship. Or repair your financial situation. An uncomfortable silence settled in the room. I could see how they looked at each other, trying to decide what to say. Dad, it is true that we are going through some tough times, Sarah finally admitted. But that does not mean we only came for money. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Arthur, can you come here for a moment? My assistant appeared in less than a minute. Arthur, do you remember the first time my children tried to contact me 3 months ago? Yes. Mr. Harris, it was after that article about you appeared in the business magazine. Exactly. I turned toward Mike and Sarah. 5 years without a single call. 5 years without asking if I was dead or alive. But 1 week after, my photo appears in a magazine as a successful businessman. Suddenly you remember that you have a father. That is not fair, Sarah protested. Really, I picked up my phone again and dialed another number. Sam, kiddo, can you come to my office? There is something I want you to hear. Sam Mike looked completely confused. Sam is here. Sam works with me on the weekends, I explained. It is part of his practical training for medical school. He is also my personal assistant for certain special projects. A few minutes later, Sam walked into the room. Seeing his parents, he froze in the doorway. Hi, Dad. Hi, Mom, he said, his voice tense. Sam, what are you doing here? Sarah asked in surprise. I work here. Sam replied firmly. Grandpa helps me with my medical studies, and I help him with a few projects. What do you mean he helps you? Mike looked baffled. Sam, I said softly, tell your parents how you have been paying for your medical studies. Sam looked at me, asking for permission with his eyes. I nodded. Grandpa has paid for all of my studies, Sam said with a clear voice. The tuition, the books, the lab fees, everything. He also pays me a salary to work with him on the weekends. Mike and Sarah were left with their mouths hanging open. What Sarah seemed incapable of processing the information. Sam, you told us you had a scholarship. I lead. Sam admitted, Grandpa asked me to keep our relationship a secret because you had hurt him so much. But we stayed in contact this whole time. This whole time, Mike looked betrayed. 5 years talking to your grandfather behind our backs, yes. Dad, 5 years where the only person who truly cared about my future was Grandpa. 5 years where you kept saying that medical school was too expensive, while he had already set aside all the necessary money. Mike slumped into an armchair, visibly overwhelmed. I cannot believe it. This whole time, I continued, this whole time, you were telling people that your father was in a nursing home, that I was a poor old man who knew nothing about the modern world. Meanwhile, that poor old man was building an empire and securing his grandson's future. Dad, we did not know. Mike began. You did not know because you did not want to know, I interrupted. You did not know because from the moment you threw me out of your lives, you decided that I no longer existed to you. But now we want to know, Sarah insisted. Now we want to be part of your life again. I actually laughed out loud. Now that you know I have money, now that you know I can solve your financial problems. It is not just about the money, Mike protested. I looked at them with a defiant glare. Mike, if I were still the same man you threw out 5 years ago, if I still lived on a tiny pension of a few $100s in a small room, Would you have come looking for me? Mike could not answer. That is what I thought. I continued. If I were still the outdated old man who did not understand the modern world, if I were still the burden you wanted to send away, you would not be here. But things have changed, Sarah said desperately. You have changed. We have changed. Everything has changed. You are right, I admitted. I have changed. I changed because I had to change. I changed because you forced me to change. I changed because I discovered that I could live without your love, but not without my dignity. Sam stepped closer and took my hand. Grandpa, maybe you should tell them everything. I looked at him curiously. Everything about what? Kiddo. About the graduation. About my invitation. There it was. The moment he had been waiting for without even knowing it. What graduation? Sarah asked. Sam looked at me, asking for permission. I nodded slowly. My medical school graduation, Sam said. Next Saturday. I finish all my studies and I will receive my medical degree. You are graduating, Mike looked stunned, but you are only 22 years old. I am 22 because I started early, and because I had the necessary financial support to focus entirely on my studies, Sam explained. Thanks to Grandpa, I never had to work an extra job to pay for school. I could dedicate my time completely to studying, and the graduation is this Saturday, Sarah said slowly, processing the information. Yes, and I have invited Grandpa as my guest of honor. The silence that followed was deafening. Mike and Sarah looked at each other, clearly understanding the implications. Sam, Sarah said slowly, we are invited too. Right. Sam looked at me again. This time, I was the one who answered. Sam can invite whoever he wants to his graduation, I said calmly. It is his special day. But I want you to understand something. That day, I am not going as the repentant father you threw out 5 years ago. I am going as the man who financed Sam's education, as the businessman who built all of this, as the grandfather who never stopped believing in his grandson. Dad, Sarah started. That day, I continued, Sam will discover who his real family is. He will discover who was there when he needed them, and who only shows up when it is convenient. I left them with those words floating in the air. The graduation would be in 5 days, and it would be the perfect moment for everyone to understand how things had changed, to understand who held the power now. The day of the graduation dawned perfectly. Blue skies, ideal temperatures, and a light breeze moving the curtains in my apartment as I prepared for the most important event of the last 5 years. It was not just Sam's graduation. It was my official reappearance in the lives of my children. But this time, on my own terms, I dressed carefully. A cream-colored custom suit I had bought especially for the occasion. Elegant yet comfortable Italian shoes. And the jewelry I had inherited from my father, but never had the chance to wear when I lived with them. The gold cufflinks, the diamond tie pin I had gifted myself the year before. Each piece told a story of success, of recovered dignity. Mr. Harris, Arthur told me when I arrived at the office that morning. The car is ready for 4 o'clock. I confirmed the reservation at the restaurant for after the ceremony. Confirmed for 8 people, I replied. Sam can invite whoever he wants to celebrate. I had reserved the private dining room at the most exclusive restaurant in the city. I wanted Sam's day to be perfect, regardless of what happened with Mike and Sarah. At 3 o'clock, Sam called me from the college campus. Grandpa, I am nervous, he said with a shaky voice. Not about the graduation, but about what is going to happen when Dad and Mom see you. Kiddo, today is not a day to be nervous, I replied calmly. Today is your day. Today we celebrate that you became a doctor. The rest is secondary. Will you be coming in the company car? I smiled. Sam knew I had several luxury cars, but I had chosen the newest black sedan in the fleet, not to show off, but because I wanted to arrive with the elegance fitting of a successful businessman. Yes, kiddo, and I will be in the front row, clapping louder than anyone when you walk to get your diploma. At exactly 4 o'clock, my driver opened the car door in front of the main entrance to the university auditorium. I could feel people's stares as I walked toward the entrance. My posture was straight, confident, my expression serene, but powerful. Mr. Harris. A young man with a press badge approached. I am from the local paper. Could we take a picture of you? We heard your grandson is graduating and that you financed his studies. Of course, I replied with an elegant smile. But today, Sam is the one who deserves the spotlight. While I posed for the photo, I saw out of the corner of my eye that Mike and Sarah had arrived. They pulled up in an old car, visibly nervous, dressed in the best they had, but it clearly did not match the caliber of the occasion. I saw them stop in their tracks as they watched me pose for the press, their faces reflecting a mix of shock and something that looked like envy. I finished with the photographer and headed toward the entrance. Mike and Sarah approached timidly. Dad, Sarah said, you look incredible. Thank you, I replied politely. You both look nice too. It was a lie. But there was no sense in being cruel. Mike was wearing a suit he had evidently rented for the occasion, and Sarah a dress that had seen better days. The difference between us was massive, but I no longer felt any satisfaction in humiliating them, just an emptiness. Can we sit together? Mike asked hopefully. I have reserved seats in the front row, I explained. As Sam's guest of honor, you can sit wherever the ushers place you. I watched them swallow hard. Guest of honor. That meant Sam had given me the spot that traditionally belonged to the parents. We entered the auditorium and I noticed the difference immediately. I was escorted by an usher to the very first row, where there was a seat with a small brass plaque that read Robert Harris, Guest of Honor. Beside me were seats reserved for university officials and major donors. Mike and Sarah were directed to the 5th row, in ordinary seats, like any other family. An older gentleman in academic regalia approached me. I am the dean of the medical school. It is an honor to have you here. Sam has spoken so highly of you. The honor is mine. Dean, Sam is an exceptional young man. Indeed he is. And we want to personally thank you for your generous donation to the new research lab. Thanks to your contribution, many students like Sam will have better opportunities. Donation for the lab. From my seat, I could see Mike and Sarah exchanging confused glances. They knew nothing about this donation. They knew nothing about my real relationship with the university. The ceremony began, and when they called Sam's name, I stood up and clapped with all my heart. My grandson walked across the stage with elegance, confidence, and a radiant smile. When he received his diploma, he looked directly at me and winked. Sam Harris, the dean announced, is graduating with honors and has received the Robert Harris Academic Excellence Scholarship to continue his specialized medical training. I had established that scholarship the year before for exceptional medical students. Sam had not only earned the right to wear my name with pride, but he had also proven that he deserved to carry on my legacy. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed, Sam ran toward me. Grandpa, we did it. He hugged me tightly. You did it. Kiddo, I just gave you the tools. The hard work was all yours. Mike and Sarah walked over slowly. I could see in their faces that they had fully grasped the situation. Not only had I financed Sam's studies, But I had also set up scholarships, donated equipment, and become a major benefactor for the university. Congratulations. Sam, Sarah said, her voice filled with emotion. We are so proud of you. Thanks. Mom, Sam replied, but his hug was brief and formal. Sam, I said, I reserved the private room at the finest restaurant in the city to celebrate. You can invite whoever you want. It was the most expensive restaurant in the city. Mike looked impressed. There is no budget today. I simply added, it is my grandson's graduation day. Sam looked at me with deep affection. I want Dad and Mom to come too. Despite everything, they are my parents. I felt a sting in my chest. Sam was more generous than I had been capable of being. Wiser, too. Of course. Kiddo, it is your decision. At the restaurant, the difference became even more apparent. Everyone knew me personally. The head chef came out to greet me, and we were served the most exclusive tasting menu. Mike and Sarah were clearly uncomfortable, staring at the menu prices with wide eyes. Dad, Mike finally said as we waited for dessert, we need to talk. About what? About us. About the family. About everything. I looked at my two children. They looked small, insecure, completely different from the people who had thrown me out of their lives 5 years ago. What exactly do you mean? We want to ask for your forgiveness, Sarah said, tears welling in her eyes. We were wrong. We were horrible to you. And what do you expect me to do with those apologies? We want you to give us another chance. Mike pleaded. We want to be a family again. I looked at Sam, who was watching the scene intently. Then I looked back at my two children. So different now. So vulnerably. Mike, Sarah, I said slowly, you taught me something very valuable 5 years ago. What you taught me that I can live without you. You taught me that I am stronger than I thought. You taught me that my worth does not depend on being needed by my children. They sat in silence. But Sam taught me something different. I continued, looking at my grandson with affection. He taught me that I can still love without losing my dignity. That I can still give without being used. Dad, Sarah started. The difference, I pressed on, is that Sam chose me when you rejected me. Sam valued me when you despised me. Sam saw my potential when you only saw my age. Mike lowered his head. We understand that you are resentful. I am not resentful. I answered honestly. Bitterness is a poison that only hurts myself. I decided a long time ago to let go of the anger. So, is there hope for us? Sarah asked. I looked at them for several seconds. There is a difference between forgiving and forgetting. I can forgive you, but I cannot pretend the last 5 years did not happen. I cannot pretend that you did not hurt me deeply. What do you want from us? Mike asked. Time, I answered. Time to see if you have truly changed, or if you are only here because it is convenient for you now. Time to see if you can love the successful man I have become, or if you just want to use the rich businessman you discovered. Sam took my hand under the table. Grandpa, I think they deserve a chance. Do you think so? Kiddo, I think we all deserve a second chance. But I also think second chances are earned, not given away. I looked at Mike and Sarah. Are you willing to earn that second chance? Both nodded vigorously. Then we start slowly, I finally said, very slowly. And by my rules, for the first time in 5 years, I saw something that looked like hope in their eyes. But also for the first time in 5 years, I was the one holding all the cards. 6 months after the graduation, things had changed in ways I never would have imagined. Mike had found a job at one of my bakeries. Not through favoritism, but because he had proven he could learn and work hard. Sarah had started going to therapy to understand why she had mistreated her own father so terribly. And little by little, very slowly, we were rebuilding something that resembled a family relationship. But the rules were still mine. Good morning, Tad. Sarah told me when she arrived at my office that Thursday morning. She no longer dropped by unannounced. She no longer presumed she had a right to my time or attention. Good morning, Sarah. How was therapy yesterday? Good. We talked about guilt, about how fear made me hurt the person I loved the most. She sat across from my desk, no longer with her old arrogance, but with genuine respect. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think that someday you will be able to forgive me completely? I looked at her for several seconds. It was a question I had asked myself many times over the past few months. Sarah, forgiveness is not something that happens overnight. It is a process. And that process includes seeing real changes, not just hearing words. I understand that, she said in a small voice. And what changes have you seen? I have seen Mike wake up every day at 6 in the morning to go to work. I have seen him respect his coworkers, learn from his mistakes, and not use our family connection to get special favors. Mike had started as a delivery driver at our bakery down south, and had been promoted on his own merit. He was now an assistant manager, and his superiors did not even know he was my son until he told them himself after 3 months on the job. That is excellent. And what else? And I have seen you go to your therapy sessions every single week. I continued. I have seen you apologize to Sam for putting him in the middle of our problems. I have seen you try to understand why you caused me so much pain. And is it enough? She asked with hope. It is a start, I answered honestly. But, Sarah, I need you to understand something. I am no longer the same man you knew. I will never again be the father who sacrifices himself in silence, who gives everything without receiving anything in return, who allows himself to be mistreated because he is afraid of being alone. We do not want you to be that man ever again, she said quickly. We want to know the man you are right now. Just then, Sam walked into the office. He was officially my executive assistant while finishing his residency in pediatrics. Working with me allowed him to gain experience in hospital administration, which would be incredibly useful for his future as a doctor. Grandpa, he said. The confirmation from the new property just came in. Bakery number 15 officially opens next month. 15 bakeries. In just 6 years? I had built a network that rivaled the best in the state. But more important than the numbers was what I had learned about myself in the process. Excellent news, I replied to Sam. Then I turned to Sarah. Would you like to come to the grand opening? Her eyes lit up. Really, really. But not as the daughter who owes me favors. But as part of the family we are slowly rebuilding. I would love to, she said with a sincere smile. That afternoon, after Sarah left, I stayed alone in my office, watching the sunset through the large window. Sam walked over and sat in the chair across from my desk. How do you feel about all of this? Grandpa, conflicted. I admitted, a part of me wants to go back to being the family we were before. And another part remembers the pain and resists. And which part is winning? The part that learned that true love includes respect, I replied. The part that understood that being a father does not mean being a doormat. Sam smiled. I think you found the perfect balance. You think so? Yes. You give them chances, but you do not let them hurt you. You love them, but you do not forget to love yourself first. He was right. For years, I had believed that loving my children meant erasing myself as a person. Now I knew that true love requires both sides to respect each other mutually. Sam, did you ever regret that we kept in touch all those years in secret? Never, he answered without hesitation. You were the only one who believed in me, even when I did not believe in myself. You taught me that I could be a doctor, that I could study at the best universities, that I could have big dreams. You gave me the tools and the confidence, and, most importantly, he continued, you taught me that the men in our family are strong, that we can build empires, that we can survive betrayals, that we can forgive without being naive. That night, as I ate dinner alone in my apartment, I thought about the journey I had taken, from that broken man on the park bench to the successful entrepreneur I was today, from the rejected father to the respected and beloved grandfather. My phone rang. It was Mike. Dad, I wanted to tell you that they named me regional manager today, though they are trusting me with the responsibility of overseeing 3 bakeries. Congratulations. Mike, you earned it. Dad, I know things have not been easy between us, but I want you to know that every single day I spend working in your bakeries, I better understand what kind of extraordinary man you are. Thank you. Isung, and I want you to know that I do not work there anymore just because you are my father. I work there because I believe in what you built, because I respect your vision, because I want to be part of something as great as what you created. After hanging up, I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped out onto the terrace. The city shined at my feet, full of possibilities, full of life. I had learned that revenge was never the goal. Freedom was the freedom to be valued, respected, and loved for who I truly was. The freedom to build something of my own, something that no one could take away from me. I had learned that I did not need permission to live my life to the fullest. I did not need my children's approval to feel valuable. I did not need to be useful just to be loved. I had learned that age was not a limitation, but an advantage. That experience was not obsolescence, but wisdom. That starting over at 73 years old was not the end, but a brand new beginning. I looked at the stars and smiled. Tomorrow there would be more bakeries to plan, more employees to manage, more dreams to build. But tonight I would simply enjoy something that had taken me 78 years to obtain, the peace of knowing that I was enough, exactly as I was, and that no one could ever make me believe otherwise again. I had learned that sometimes pain is exactly what makes us discover the strength we always had. If my children had not rejected me, I never would have known my own worth. I discovered that respecting yourself is far more important than trying to please everyone else. 3 months after that late-night conversation, I received a call I was not expecting. It was the mayor of the city. Mr. Harris, we have an interesting proposal. We are organizing an event for local entrepreneurs who have generated jobs and social impact. We would love for you to be the keynote speaker. I accepted, not out of vanity, but because I knew my story could inspire others. Others who perhaps felt finished, discarded, worthless. Others who needed to hear that life does not end just because someone else decides you are no longer useful. The night of the event, as I was getting ready in the green room, Mike and Sarah appeared at the door. Dad, Mike said, we came to support you. Sam told us you might be nervous. I laughed. Me? Nervous I have negotiated multi-million-dollar contracts. I have given speeches in front of bankers and politicians. I do not get nervous. Then we came simply because we wanted to be here, Sarah said. Because we are proud of you, not of the successful businessman, but of the man who got back up when everything seemed lost. I felt a lump in my throat. For the first time in 6 years, I felt that maybe, just maybe, we were truly becoming a family again. When I walked out onto the stage, I saw Sam in the front row. Next to him were Mike and Sarah. And for the first time in a very long time, I did not feel any resentment looking at them. I felt hope. Good evening. I began. My name is Robert Harris, and 6 years ago I was sitting on a park bench with about $10 in my pocket and a broken heart. Believing that my life was over, the audience fell completely silent. My own children had told me I was a burden, that my ideas were outdated, that I would be better off in a nursing home. And for a moment, I actually believed them. I saw Sarah wipe away a tear. But that day, sitting on that bench, I made the most important decision of my life. I decided that my worth did not depend on what others thought of me. I decided that I still had something to offer. I decided that age was just a number, not a life sentence. Applause began to fill the auditorium. Today I have 15 bakeries. I employ over 100 people. I have donated millions to causes that matter to me. But more important than all of that, I got my dignity back. I got my self-esteem back. I got my life back. I turned toward where Mike, Sarah, and Sam were sitting, and I learned that true love, real family love, is not the kind that makes you feel small so others can feel big. It is the kind that celebrates you, respects you, and grows with you. After the event, while I was signing autographs and posing for photos, Mike walked up to me. "Dad, what you said up there, about us." I told the truth. "Mike, you hurt me deeply, but you also gave me the push I needed to discover who I truly was. Can you ever forgive us completely?" I looked at my son. He looked different now, more humble, more genuine. "I already forgave you, Mike. The forgiveness was for me, not for you. It freed me from the resentment, the bitterness, the pain. But trust is rebuilt day by day. I understand, and we are going to keep working to earn it." That night, as we all ate dinner together at my favorite restaurant, I observed my family. Mike laughing at one of Sam's jokes, Sarah genuinely asking me about my plans for the new bakery location, Sam looking at me with that unconditional love that had never wavered. We were not perfect, and we probably never would be, but we were real, we were honest, and little by little, we were a family again. "Grandpa," Sam said, raising his glass. "I want to make a toast." We all raised our glasses. To the strongest man I know. To the man who taught me that falling down is not the end, but the beginning. To the man who built an empire with his bare hands, and a heart that refused to surrender. To my grandfather, Robert Harris. To Dad. Mike and Sarah said in unison. We clinked our glasses. And in that moment, looking at the faces of the people I had lost and found again, I knew that it had all been worth it. The pain, the struggle, the loneliness. It had all been worth it. Because in the end, I had not just built a successful business, I had built a life worth living, a life of dignity, respect, and self-love. And that, I discovered, was true wealth. A year after that memorable toast, my life had reached a balance I never thought possible, not just in business, but in my heart. Mike was now overseeing 5 bakeries as a regional manager, and his employees genuinely respected him, not because he was my son, but because he had earned that respect with hard work and humility. Sarah had finished her therapy and started working as a volunteer at the same orphanage I had donated funds to years ago, helping children who, like her, we needed to learn the value of gratitude and respect. And Sam, my dear grandson, was finishing his pediatrics residency at one of the best hospitals in the country. He was still my assistant on the weekend, not because I needed him to be, but because we loved working together. One Saturday morning, while we were reviewing the plans for bakery number 18 down by the coast. Sam looked at me with that smile that always melted my heart. Grandpa, can I ask you something personal? Always. Kiddo, are you happy? The question caught me off guard. I leaned back in my leather chair and looked out my office window. The city sprawled before me, vibrant and full of life. My 17 bakeries were operating successfully. Over 120 families depended on the jobs I had created. I had donated millions to causes that mattered. And I had a rebuilt, albeit still fragile, the relationship with my children. You know what? Sam, I finally answered, I am happy. Not in the way I thought I would be happy when I was your age. It is not the happiness of having a perfect family that never argues. It is something different. Something much deeper. What is it? It is the happiness of knowing who I am, of knowing my worth, of knowing that I built something meaningful with my own hands. It is the happiness of having proven to myself that it was never too late to start over. Sam nodded thoughtfully. Dad and Mom asked me yesterday if I thought you would ever be able to love them like before. And what did you tell them? I told them the truth. That you will probably never love them like you did before. But that maybe you can all build a new kind of love. One that is more honest. And much stronger. He was right. The love I felt now for Mike and Sarah was different. It was more cautious. Yes. But it was also more real. It was not based on obligation or the fantasy of a perfect family. It was based on mutual respect, on growth, on the acknowledgement of past mistakes. You are very wise for a 23-year-old. I told him, I had a great teacher. He replied with a smile. That afternoon, I received an unexpected call. It was from a television producer. Mr. Harris, we are making a television special about entrepreneurs who have overcome adversity. Your story is exactly what we are looking for. Would you be willing to participate? At first, I hesitated. I was not someone who sought the spotlight. But then I thought about all the older folks who possibly felt just like I had felt on that park bench. Finished. Worthless. Discarded by their own families. Yes, I said. But on one condition, I want the program to include a clear message. It is never too late to reinvent yourself. Age is not the end. It is just a number. 2 weeks later, I was in the television studio. Mike, Sarah, and Sam were sitting in the audience. The host, an enthusiastic young man. I started with the typical questions about my business success. But then came the question that changed everything. Mr. Harris, what was the most difficult moment of your life? I took a deep breath. The day my children told me they no longer needed me. The day they made me feel that, at 73 years old, my life no longer had a purpose. I could see Sarah crying in the audience. That day, I thought my life was over, but I was wrong. That day, my real life was just beginning. What would you say to someone who is going through a similar situation right now? I looked directly into the camera, knowing that somewhere out there, someone was sitting in their house, feeling just as lonely and lost as I had felt. I would tell them that your worth is not determined by what others think of you. It is not even determined by your family. Your worth is determined by you alone. I would tell them that as long as you have one more day of life, you have one more chance to show the world what you are made of. I would tell them that age is just a number. I started my empire at 73. Some would say I was way too old. I say I was exactly the right age, because I had the experience, the wisdom, and most importantly, I had something to prove. The host smiled. And what would you say to your children right now? If they could hear you, I looked directly at Mike and Sarah, who were looking back at me, holding back their tears. I would tell them that I forgive them. Completely, I would tell them that the pain they caused me was the catalyst I needed to discover my true potential. I would tell them that, thanks to them, I learned to love myself. And I would tell them that I am proud of the changes they have made, of the hard work they are putting in to rebuild our relationship. After the taping, Sarah ran up to me and hugged me tightly. Dad, I am so sorry. I know. Sweetheart, I know. Mike joined the embrace. For the first time in 7 years, we hugged as a family, not as the family we used to be, but as the family we were learning to become, imperfect, honest, and real. The following months were an emotional roller coaster. The program aired and went viral. I received thousands of messages from older people thanking me for inspiring them. Some had started their own businesses. Others had gone back to school. And others had simply found the courage to set boundaries with relatives who were mistreating them. But the most meaningful message came from an 80-year-old woman named Mrs. Carol. Mr. Harris, she wrote. My daughter threw me out of her house 3 years ago. She told me I was a burden. I have been living in a small nursing home, believing my life was over. But your story gave me hope. Tomorrow, I am going to talk to the director of the home about starting a knitting program to sell items at the local market. At 80 years old, I'm going to start my very first business. Thank you for reminding me that I still have value. I cried when I read that message. Not tears of sadness, but of gratitude. My pain had served a purpose. My story had inspired others. One night, 6 months after the television program, I hosted a family dinner at my apartment, not at a fancy restaurant, but in my home. I personally cooked the recipes my mother had taught me when I was young. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, fresh green beans, and homemade bread. Mike arrived early to help me cook. Sarah brought fresh flowers from the market. Sam set the table with the fine tablecloth I had saved for years. As we ate, Mike raised his glass. Dad, I want to say something. We all went quiet. For years, I believed I had been a good son. I fooled myself into thinking that kicking you out was the best thing for you and for us. But I was wrong. I was not a good son. I was selfish, cruel, and blind. His voice cracked. But you taught us what it means to be truly strong. You did not just survive without us. You flourished. And when we came crawling back, when we finally understood our horrible mistake, you gave us something we did not deserve. A second chance. Sarah took my hand. Dad, I know I will never be able to erase the pain I caused you. I know the words I said to you that day scarred you deeply. But I want you to know that every single day, I work to be the daughter you deserve. Not the daughter I was, but the one I can become. Sam, who had witnessed everything from the very beginning, smiled. Grandpa, when I was a kid and they kicked you out, I did not understand why Mom and Dad were so cruel to you. Now, as an adult, I understand that people sometimes hurt the ones they love the most when they are scared or lost. But I also learned that true love is the kind that survives even after betrayal. I looked at the 3 people sitting at my table. My family, imperfect, broken, but mine. I want you to know something, I said slowly. These last 7 years have not been easy. There were days when the loneliness was unbearable. There were nights when I wondered if it was worth moving forward. There were moments when the pain was so deep I thought it would never heal. I paused. But they were also the most important years of my life. Because in those years, I found myself. I discovered that I was stronger than I ever imagined. I learned that I deserved respect. I understood that self-love is not selfishness. It is survival. Mike. Sarah, I continued, I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve it. I deserve to live without the weight of resentment. I deserve peace. And you deserve the opportunity to do things better. That night, after everyone left, I stayed out on my terrace looking up at the stars. The city was sleeping below me, but my mind was wide awake, full of memories and reflections. I thought about the man I had been 7 years ago. Broken, lost, believing his life was over. And I thought about the man I was now. Successful. Yes, but more importantly, at peace with himself. My phone vibrated. It was a text from Sam. Grandpa, thank you for never giving up. Thank you for teaching me that falling down is not failing. Falling down is just the beginning of getting back up even stronger. I love you. I smiled. It had all been worth it. At the end of the day, I had learned the most valuable lessons of my life in my 70s. That it is never too late to start over. That your worth is not determined by what others think of you. That age is wisdom, not weakness. That self-respect is more valuable than anyone else's approval. That forgiving does not mean forgetting. That you can love without losing your dignity. And that sometimes the most painful rejection is exactly the push you need to discover your true potential. If you are listening to this and you feel lost, rejected, or worthless, I want you to know something. Your story is not over. This might be the end of one chapter, but it can also be the beginning of the best chapter of your life. I started my empire at 73. You can start yours at any age. The only thing you need to do is decide that you are worth it, that you deserve respect, and that no one, not even your own family, has the right to make you feel like you are less than you are. Life took everything away from me in a single day, but it gave me the opportunity to build something better, something stronger, something completely mine. And if I could do it, you can too. It is never too late.